right. Hey,
Hey, what's up?
much. I think I got kind of got a topic today.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Well, that'd
very
be a
questionable
well.
though.
Uh-oh.
So here we go.
Okay. Go for it.
This is the Unexpected Podcast.
All right, so I was looking at James chapter 4, verse 2, and some different areas and different things, and it's talking about you don't have because you don't ask, or you ask with wrong intentions.
Oh.
But if your intentions are good,
Mm-hmm.
or your motives are good,
Right.
is it all right to ask the question about anything? I'm not being specific about, if it is a selfish question, the different questions we ask. What kind of questions are okay to ask? Why is it, they say in school there are no stupid questions. Well, we know there are stupid questions. I mean, there are some questions that are questionable.
But are you talking about the verse that says you do not have because you do not ask, or if you ask amiss, or like you said, with the wrong intention? So you're talking about that,
Yes.
not having because you didn't ask in prayer.
Prayer,
But
or
are you correlating
more like
this over
correlating
to
over
something
it's,
else?
it's a little bit broader than just in prayer.
You're talking about what you're interested in here.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So when is it okay to ask a question? I'm asking the question
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess right now is a good time to ask a question.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a good time to get an answer,
Okay.
but
Well, have you noticed that when you're in a crowd and there's somebody asks a question, or somebody has a question in the crowd? Let me say that.
Okay.
Somebody has a question in the crowd,
Okay.
but they're afraid to ask it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very interesting, because what are all the different reasons that a person could be afraid to ask?
Why are they afraid to ask?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We're afraid to ask
Yeah.
God questions. We're afraid to ask people questions. We're afraid to go and, even answer questions sometimes.
mhm.
We're, we stay quiet, or we
Yeah.
we're having
Yeah.
an inquiry in our
Mhm.
mind of a question.
Mhm.
Why don't we just ask it?
Right. Well, okay, going back to, you just said we're afraid to ask God. I don't think I'm afraid to ask God questions,
Mm-hmm.
because he already knows what's in my mind anyway.
Right.
But to ask publicly a question about something you're interested in or want to know about, I mean, most of the time I would say it's fear of what other people are going to think. Either you may feel like, well, I should probably already know the answer. But if you don't, you don't, right? So how are you going to find out if you don't ask?
Right. So ask the question.
Okay.
I have noticed, I'm trying to learn some new things at at my work, at my job, and there are times when you ask questions and you get ridiculed.
Mm.
But I've gotten to the point where I'm going to ask the question because I just don't know the answer.
Right. Well, and that's a question that I have then. Are you saying you get ridiculed by the person to which you're directing the question, or like people around you?
People around you and the person.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
that's unfortunate.
are we afraid of being judged?
Of course we are. Yeah.
I mean, is that what it is?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So this is like, I'm asking the question and I'm just asking you.
Yeah. Like,
there are times when you're afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
There's
That's
times
true.
when I'm
That's
afraid
true.
to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So we should inquiring
Yeah.
minds want to know.
Yeah. Okay. And also, though, think about times when you've been in a crowd and you wondered about something, but someone else asks the question and you're glad they did, and that means that probably a large percentage of people were wondering, but somebody had to have the guts to say it. So why should we not be the person who has the guts to say it?
Ask questions in the comments. It's fine. It's okay. You can ask questions.
Yeah.
And we might know the answer. We might not.
We might not.
But we get to the point to where we think about what other people are thinking
Right.
about us. We
Yeah.
we prejudge people who may judge us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that humanity? I mean, is that everybody, or is that just me? That
Yeah.
I
I would
feel.
say most people have done that to some degree, you
Yeah.
know, unless they are just a person with no filter that just doesn't care. But I think everybody has one area of insecurity where they're not going to just throw themselves out there. But I think then the next question that comes to mind is how many opportunities are we missing because we're not willing to, you know, it might be a matter of I need to pick up the phone and just call someone and ask them some questions.
Right.
And what kind of opportunities are we missing because we don't want to put ourselves out there?
Like starting a business. How are you going to start a business if you don't go and ask questions? You have to ask about maybe a building, or you have to inquire about the rent of the building, or you call the city to see what, permits you need to have that building. But some people just don't want to.
Right.
They're afraid to step out and ask questions. And when we ask questions just innocently, I think that's a very good way to be. I mean, we should ask questions.
Yeah. There's no harm.
There's no harm in
Because
questions.
asking a question doesn't commit you to anything. I mean, I guess it could, if you're in the classroom and you're the student who asks the question, maybe the teacher is going to volunteer you to do something. But in most cases, it's pretty safe to ask a question, other than maybe there are repercussions about what people will think about you. But many times people are just going to be glad that you asked it.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, there's somebody that's got the same question that's in your vicinity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That have wondered about that question for years, but never had the guts to ask it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Now, sometimes I'll just kind of hang back, like, because you think, well, maybe this will get addressed later. Like something came through my email at work the other day, and I was 99% sure the information was incorrect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it went out to everybody, and I didn't want to be the one to say, now, okay, if after a day or so the error wasn't addressed, then I would have had to inquire.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, okay, that's pretty sure that's wrong, but I'll wait around and see if someone addresses it first.
Yeah. And that's, we got to hang out this weekend with some people who were, stunt doubles in some major movies. And what would that interaction with those people that we were hanging with, what would that interaction been like if I hadn't started asking questions about what they've done, who they are, just inquiring?
Right.
And it's almost a way of celebrating the achievements of others when you ask them questions about what they've done or who they are or where they've been. If you're not able to do that, I think you can break down the social construct of your life if you're not willing to ask people about themselves.
Yeah. But now here's the conundrum, because this one astounded me several years ago when people started saying, well, that's really invasive and you're being politically incorrect, or you're venturing into territory that you shouldn't by asking about people's lives, their backgrounds. How do you get to know people if you don't ask them
you gotta
questions?
ask questions.
Yeah, but there's such this sensitivity culture now.
Oh my gosh!
That you can't. You have to walk around on eggshells. And what does that do? It actually contradicts the very problems that we're trying to resolve. Because then the problem is we have this divide among people, and then you're told, well, you can't go there and you can't go there. Well, then how are we ever going to get to know each other if we're not allowed to just be real and ask questions?
It's time for society just to be real. It's time for people to be real. If you're broke and you don't have any money, be real. Just say, hey, I can't afford that right now.
Right.
Or somebody says, hey, how are you doing financially? Well, I'm doing not good.
Yeah.
People ask me, how are you doing physically? No, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well physically.
Yeah.
I'm not doing well. It hurts. My legs hurt. Everything hurts.
Yeah.
I'm not doing well.
Right.
And you know what? You're not going to know unless you ask. But if you do ask, expect an answer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And that may be why some people are afraid to ask me questions. It's because I'm
going to get 3 pages of a treatise.
Well, let me explain. Let me
Yeah.
tell you how much pain I'm in.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
time for us to quit, just sitting around and going, I wonder if.
Mm-hmm.
Go ask questions. I think it's so vital to ask questions.
Yeah.
Question everything.
Yeah.
Look at everything with a question mark. Hey, what can I learn about that? What's the thing that makes that interesting?
Yeah.
Why is this yard the way it is? Why is
Right.
it acidic? I mean, I'm just random,
Yeah. And it's not
spitballing.
hard,
But
and sometimes, like the other day, I had to make a call about some legalities. Well, I didn't know which government office to call, but you know what? You start somewhere and you say, you might not be the person I need to talk to, but perhaps you can direct me to the person I need to talk to. This is my situation. And most of the time, people are going to help you out, and you'll eventually get to the right person.
I mean, it's like a detective. We've been watching a British detective show. It's kind of fun.
Yes,
Was it
thank you.
Midsummer
Midsummer Murders.
Murders?
Yeah.
Midsummer Murders.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah,
It's a
well, I've
little odd.
exhausted all my favorite ones, so I have to go with like the next tier.
Yeah.
They're still fun
How
to
many
me.
seasons are there?
I think there are 24, but we're not anywhere
Wow.
near
24 seasons.
that.
No.
We're not into that far.
No. But a detective
Mhm.
asks questions
Mm-hmm.
to get to an answer.
Yeah.
Why are we afraid to ask questions to get our answers?
Or why do we settle for thinking answers aren't possible? And that's another one, because in the world that I work in higher education, and where, people are having to learn to research. Well, we've got this society now that is like, well, they're just used to one search box on a Google page, and they think that should retrieve everything they need to know.
Or ask AI.
Yeah. Well, that's another topic.
We
We won't go there right now.
there.
But, there are such a thing as research skills.
Yes.
And, you have to learn. You're not going to know how to find correct information if you
Right.
don't know how information is structured.
Now, is that
you know.
that's what your degree is based in, right? Research of some sort? Is that?
You're just now figuring this out. We've been married forever.
Well, I'm just.
Or are you asking as an investigative reporter?
I'm asking as an inquiring
Yeah,
mind.
my master's degree is in library science. Not something I ever planned to do with my life.
So what is library science? What is it? What
Okay.
does it do?
Well, it is the science of how information is classified, stored, and retrieved. That's one way to put it. Yeah.
But what aspect of it is asking questions and researching?
Well, when you're trying to find something based on a particular topic, you have to know like all the different places to go and search. And you might not be searching a place where the actual knowledge is, but you might be searching a place where you only have what are called citations. So then those are going to lead you, and you have to figure out ways to get to that next piece of information. But again, if you don't know how all that works, you might give up too soon.
Right, and you won't get down to the nitty gritty of it.
Right. And I've seen this happen like
You see the surface, but not the meat.
someone will do one search and like, well, I didn't find anything. Well, let's look a different way. Yeah.
Right. So there's multiple ways to get to the bottom of it.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So, anything that you do and that is worth doing is going to take critical thinking skills, which going back to your analogy of being a detective, sometimes you just have to stop and think.
Yeah.
And this brings me to something that I saw the other day. And it wasn't from a Christian perspective, but I think it completely applies to our Christian walk with God.
Right.
Okay, so a guy was saying, and again, just from a secular, like even from a scientific point of view, he said, if you will just go and sit quietly for 20 minutes, maybe 20, maybe 30, because there's a problem that you have in your life, and you just sit quietly with that problem. If you sit there quietly long enough, answers are going to come.
Mhm.
And I did it this the other day, and kind of testing it out. I was like, and I've done it before in other capacities, but I just happened to see it the other day and was kind of like challenged, like, yeah, okay, you've got this situation. Just go sit quietly. Don't try to come up with the answer. Just sit there. And how much more as followers of Christ, when we have the Holy Spirit and we can trust that God's going to bring us the answers, how many times are we going to get an answer? And what I have found is that I might not get the full answer, but I'm definitely going to get an answer about what's the next step.
Right.
It could be something very simple,
Right.
but sometimes that's all God's going to give us is like the next little step. But we oftentimes don't take the time just to get quiet with no distraction
Right.
and then trust that something that maybe we didn't think of will actually come to us. Because, you know, we're talking about databases. We have a knowledge base in our brain of experience.
Right.
But then we also have the guidance of the Holy Spirit who will, you know, lead us into all truth. And so not only do we need to ask questions, but I think we also need to wait for answers sometimes.
True. I'm not good at that. I want my answer. I mean, it's like when I ask the question, I want it now. You know, it's you're more patient at that than I am, I do believe. But if I ask a question, I need an answer.
Mhm.
You know, if it is something that we're doing, like a project or something, I in my heart, in my mind, and my person, I don't have time in life. Life's too short to wait too long for an answer.
Right. But here's another aspect of it. Okay. So say, you know, you're going from point A to point B, or you're at point A and you need a quick answer. But what if rather than waiting for the right answer, you're just going to try to figure it out on your own. And then you're going to go to point A1, A2, A3, and you're way off track. And then it takes you longer to get to point B because you weren't patient and you weren't waiting.
So this is multifaceted. It's
It is.
you know, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
That's what I'm, you know, that's the theme that I brought today. It's unexpected.
Yeah, it
So
is.
usually it's you that surprises me, so I'm surprising you with that
is,
today.
and I'm glad. You know, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you just get to a point in life where you're like, I don't have anything to give out at the moment, you know?
Yeah.
But I still showed up. So I showed up so that I could hear what you would bring to the table today, because I didn't have anything to bring to the table today.
But you know, it's marriage.
All right, it is.
That's
It
life.
is.
That's human.
It is. And, you know, there's a saying, it's attributed, I think, to Woody Allen, but it says like something like 80% of success in life is just showing up. And, you know, there's not going to be days when we're not feeling it, or we don't have a lot to contribute, or we don't think we do. But we just keep going, keep showing up. And because how many people give up? We talked about, we've been
Yes.
talking about this among back and forth to each other about how easy it is to give up. You know, you start to lose steam on a certain project or on something you're doing. And even when you lose steam, just give it a little something every day or every week, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm really want to know about why is it so hard to ask questions when you're in a crowd?
No, that's a
And
great.
You're
that's
so
good.
afraid of getting judged.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's I think that's something everybody shares.
Yeah.
Is they're afraid of being judged.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to be perceived as being dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, now there are stupid questions, there are dumb questions, but
Yeah.
when you're trying to learn and you honestly don't know something,
Mm-hmm.
that's not dumb.
Yeah.
That's not, you know,
Yeah.
if you are,
Yeah.
you forgot or you didn't learn it well the first time, ask the question. If you're in school, at work, and you're learning a new trade or you're learning something, ask questions.
I have a little caveat here, though.
Okay.
I think you're absolutely right, and I 100% agree. But I'm thinking about an own personal situation in my life where some terminology was used, and it was in a situation where I didn't know what that terminology was. But, you know, I probably should have, not should have, but it probably would have been something I could have researched myself. And instead, I asked my boss, and I got this look like, you complete moron. And then I felt kind of dumb. And it's like, you know, so the Bible talks about being, you know, what is it? Wise as serpents, but innocent as doves.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes maybe you need to just be wise and try to find out for yourself rather than putting yourself at the mercy of someone who could use it against you. So there are situations where you need to hold your tongue and maybe try to find out from a trusted source rather than putting yourself out there in a moment of like, what does that mean? And then being judged for it for 5 years. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but I'm just saying there are times when maybe you need to use a little wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just one little caveat I would add.
Yeah. But I think that's where
But then
I
again,
have a
yeah.
little bit of a rebellious thing at
No.
times. At times.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I'll poke the bear.
Yeah.
And just because that person is being mean
Mm.
to everybody. And so I feel like it's a sense of justice to go, all right, I'm going to ask the question.
Mm.
Why are you mean? and
Well.
sometimes they don't realize that they're being mean.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And so there's so many different
Because different people have
outcomes.
different demeanors. And
Right.
so maybe someone needs to bring it to their attention because in their mind, they're being nice. But if anybody else heard their tone or their approach,
Oh,
they would
yeah.
know, like, this is not a nice person. So we're not judged by what our intentions are, but we're actually judged by what our actions are. That our fruit is actually our actions. So we can't sit back and say, well, I intended, this is what I meant. This is how I was feeling. I wasn't being, snarky in my
Right.
attitude, but it's like, but if it sounded snarky, then that's that's the fruit of it.
Yeah. There's sometimes I sound mean and I don't mean to. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm a little bit of a burly guy and I'm in
Burly
pain.
guy.
I'm in pain sometimes.
Right. And that does make you
And that makes me like
kinda on edge.
on edge a little bit. And it hurt. I mean, there are
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
reasons, that people lash out, it's a horrible thing
Yeah.
to be in pain
Yeah.
all the time,
Absolutely.
but it's no excuse to be mean to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I unintentionally am cranky sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, everybody has their breaking point of,
Right.
whether they get hangry, they haven't eaten and they're maybe not their usual self,
Right.
or if they're in pain or they're haven't slept. That's another one.
Yeah.
Those things do affect us. Yeah. So it's,
But don't be
hard to
afraid to
guard.
ask questions. If you are inquisitive and you want to learn and if you want to know the answer, ask questions. Ask God. Don't be
absolutely.
afraid to ask God,
Absolutely.
definitely. It's like, God, I don't understand this. I need help.
Yeah. And then trust that he will give you some kind of answer. Maybe not the
Maybe
full
through
picture.
somebody else.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe through your spouse
Mhm.
that you didn't want to hear from
Oh,
because you and
snap.
her were on non-speaking terms for about 10 minutes and you just didn't want to talk because you said something mean, she misinterpreted, and you didn't think you were mean, but you were mean, and you just wanted to apologize to her because you say you're sorry on camera.
Oh. Hey, it goes both ways. Right?
Sorry.
All is forgiven, and it does go both ways. So sorry.
Look, I came clean on camera.
Ooh, ooh. Good
But
job.
the questions, yes.
Yeah.
So I think questions are good. I was told by some Pastor Barry Hardison. When he was when I first came to the Lord and I was saved, it started my salvation journey. It's one thing he said: look at the Bible with question mark in your mind.
Yeah.
Always question. Believe,
Mm-hmm.
but question.
But
All right,
question, what is
what's
this trying to say?
What is this trying
Yeah.
to say to me? What are you saying to me today, Lord? What does this scripture say? What does that say? Where does that come from? Why is it saying it like that? Blind faith is okay sometimes, but other times it's like, I want to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
And I think when I ask questions, I'm wanting to go deeper in whatever subject it is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's talking about, like, I got into M theory the other day, and trying to understand cymatics and M theory, and also relate it to the Bible where God said, "Let there be light." And so I went in all that, and I know you glass over when I talk about that, but I get excited about that because I think about the smallest particles being sound waves.
No, I think that's cool. I
But
think
I
that's cool.
want to be inquisitive, I
Yeah.
think a certain amount of being inquisitive is good, because we're
Absolutely.
searching for God. We're searching
Absolutely.
for relationships with others. We're searching for something. We're searching for people to, share the gospel with.
Well,
we're
and
searching.
being inquisitive is actually being humble because it's assuming you don't already have all the answers. You haven't figured it all out. There's still more to learn. There's
Right.
still more to understand. There's still more to know. So really, it's being at a place of humility.
And if you're really inquisitive, go watch our other episodes along with this one. Right?
Sure.
Hey, see what we're about.
Sure.
And we've got a lot of good things to say, I think. And we would like for you to go ahead and leave some comments
Yeah.
because we like to hear from you.
Absolutely. We love that.
Yeah, we enjoy
love
it.
hearing from you guys.
Even good, bad, or the ugly. We've gotten
We
some
can take
ugly
it.
ones.
Oh, yeah. We've gotten plenty of uglies. That's fine. I mean, that's what's going to happen
That's
when you
fun.
put yourself out there on the internet. Strangers who just are looking for
An
trouble.
argument.
Yeah. They're gonna come at us, and that's okay.
We won't argue with you. We'll just,
No.
you know,
And
bless
you know what? I pray for those people because I used to be one of those people who's just like, looking for trouble.
Yeah, I used to trust everybody.
Mhm.
That was a
You and I were opposite.
we're right opposite.
Yeah.
You were like, don't trust anybody. Everybody's out to get. And I was like, everybody's all good. Let's all have fun. Woo! Look, they're deep down. They're really good people. Sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
I've learned.
Had to learn the hard way.
I've had to learn the naive, hard way that there
Mhm.
are mean people.
Yep.
And people that are bitter.
Yep.
And there are evil people.
Well, you're giving me an idea for a future topic, but we won't go there right now
Oh,
because
look at
we're
that.
out of time.
We're out of time.
Yeah.
Look at that. 27 minutes
Yee.
and
Something
10,
like that.
11, 12 seconds, 13
Are you
seconds.
going to count
14
down
sec-
to goodbye?
No. So, all right. Thank you guys for watching. And this has been a great episode, I think. I liked it. It was a little slow starting, but we're good
It's
now.
all right. We're here.
We're here.
We're going to keep going. Remember to show up
Yeah.
in life.
Show up. That's half the battle.
Yeah. All
Be
right.
willing. Ask questions.
Yep. And we'll see you on the next
All right.
episode.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to like this video and please subscribe to our channel. Drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you prefer audio podcasts, please follow us on your favorite streaming platform.